Afternoon, everybody. It's great to be here. Thank you very much for having me. Just so I know, get just a little sense of your ages. How many people are in high school? How many people are in college? All right. So, I mean, basically, we got pretty much, looks like 50-50, kind of a mix there. That's great. What I want to talk to you about a little bit is friendship, and especially how you might think about that at this time in your life. And I'd like to begin by just suggesting to you that while everybody tends to have a sense that we know what friendship is, I've never met a human being who says, I have no friends. At the same time, it's something that I think bears a lot more consideration. It's something we actually don't spend the time thinking about, and I'll put it this way, being intentional about, that's well worth doing. So I'd like to just begin by having you think of it this way. Friendship is, by God's design, always at the center of your life. Show me a human being that is thriving, that is living the life that God has designed that person to live. And I absolutely assure you that person has a certain kind of very good friendship. Show me someone who doesn't have a certain kind of very good friendship. And that person is not going to be experiencing the happiness that God intends for us, is not going to be thriving the way that God wants us to be. Especially, can I say to you, in this day and age, again, I'm going to get a little bit in your face and I'm going to challenge you. Everybody knows that there are friends, and then there are friends. So everybody can have friends, but not everybody can have friends. And if it sounds like I'm playing a word game, I'm not. And if you don't know the difference, you will suffer for it. You have got to figure out the difference between friends and friends. And you have got to figure out how to cultivate and discover and make happen the one kind. The other happens very easily. And again, basically everybody has them. But here's the catch. Having that other broader kind, loose kind, shallow kind of friendship never, ever, ever, ever makes you happy. It never, ever, ever takes away loneliness. You can have people that have many friends who are profoundly lonely people. And the sad thing is, your generation very much shows that to the world. That you can have lots going on, lots of connections, lots of people that you might have fun spending time with, but it doesn't fill the place in your life that is so essential, that only the other kind of friendship actually will fill. And so my main goal here today is to help you think about what that other kind of friendship is, and then to help you start to think about what you're going to do to make that other friendship happen. Because if there's one thing I can tell you with absolute certitude, it is this, that more important kind of friendship will never happen in your life unless you know what you are looking for and you set forth to find it. As all great things, it never, ever, ever happens by accident. It comes to those who know what they are looking for and are very intentional and serious about looking for it. And so I say to you in all seriousness, it's a very serious topic that we have here, and I'm going to challenge you to stand out from many around you who, in God's great providence, for whatever reason, are certainly not looking down our nose. It's a good reason to be merciful and to pray for people. But I'd like to offer you an opportunity here today to think about something perhaps you haven't thought so much about, and as a result of that, perhaps set forth on a trajectory that could absolutely change everything for you. So I'm going to, pardon me, tell you, I'm sorry, I'm a little bit congested. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what Aristotle says about friendship, and then I'm going to apply that to your life. Let me make something clear. Then as now, there are different kinds of relationships that can be called friendship. And it's a funny thing. The word has always been used that way. Ancient Greece, modern America. We use friends in a very broad way, and then we use friends in a more narrow way. And it's because there's a real similarity between the two relationships. But again, the funny thing is, it absolutely makes all the difference in the world to see the difference. What I want to make clear is, I'm not saying anything against a more shallow kind of friendship. In God's great providence, you have a relationship of many different kinds. You have relationships of different kinds with different people in your life. There's nothing wrong in itself with having a shallow friendship, as long as you recognize it for what it is and don't expect more from it than it can give. Let me give an example. If there's one, there's so much that would be lovely to talk about that we won't be able to. When Aristotle distinguishes between the different kinds of friendships, one of the most helpful things to think about it is to apply it to the realm of dating. And if there's one thing you can say about the realm of dating, it needs to be a true kind of friendship. If it's not, then dating will be a very negative thing. And so certain things in life just demand the more. So what I'm saying there is, it can be the case that you have in your life just, okay, I don't have a very deep relationship right here, and that's fine. You haven't had that long to get to know that person. That's fine. I'm certainly not going to suggest to you, when I tell you a little bit more right now about what Aristotle and the great Christian tradition will call true friendship, I'm not going to say to you, now run out there and try to have this with everybody. Because one of the most challenging things that I'm going to say to you is that the wise say you can only have this deeper kind of friendship with a very small number of people. And that's not a problem. That's by God's design. There are, as it were, levels of closeness to you in the different kinds of relationships. And a very big part of growing up is recognizing that that's okay. Always act with integrity in all of your friendships. But here's a principle to remember that might sound a little strange, but never pretend to have a deeper friendship with somebody than you do, because it never leads to good. You can only go deeper with a small number of people. And so the biggest practical thing, I'm going to give you some practical suggestions further on how to go about doing this. But the main practical suggestion I want to make to you here is, right now, here today, start to be thinking in your mind, with whom in my life can I be going deeper in true friendship? With whom in your life can you be going deeper in true friendship? This is an exceedingly important question to ask yourself and to discern about. Because part of the great challenge is simply this. Despite what society around us tells us, you cannot have a true friendship with just anyone. You cannot have a true friendship with a human person who is not focused on trying to grow in virtue. I'm going to say that again because that is a very politically incorrect thing to say, a very challenging thing, because the point is this. Please hear me rightly and don't misunderstand what I'm saying. All of us were designed for friendship. Anyone can be a true friend if you live a certain kind of life. But if you don't live a certain kind of life, then you cannot live in true friendship. So, as it were, it's up to you. Are you going to live the kind of life that makes it possible for you to have a true friendship? And then you're going to turn outward and look at the various people in your life, and you're going to ask yourself, with whom can I go deeper? And this is one of the hardest things I'm going to say to you today, because right now I can already feel it welling up in you. So don't worry, I'm going to anticipate a thought, a question you've gotten. By the way, I will take any questions you have in a little bit. But right now you might be saying to yourself, that is so judgmental. Who am I to look around and say, well, yeah, this person could be my friend, but this person over here is not capable of being my friend? I hear you. I understand why you might say that. And nonetheless, I absolutely stand firm, and that is exactly what you have got to do. Because this is the way that God has designed things. True friendship is that rich a thing that only comes to those who are willing to live a certain kind of life. Let me put it to you this way. One way that Aristotle explains, as the word defines, what friendship is truly living one life together. But here's the thing. Then you start to look a little bit more deeply. Of course, any life that you're going to live has got to be a human life. Some people live like animals. They're alive, but they're not really alive. Human life, by God's design, has a very specific form to it. You can choose to live any way you want to, but only if you choose to live a certain kind of way will you be living the way that God has designed you to flourish and to be able to respond to His call and come closer to Him. So friendship, true friendship, is about doing that together. And so very simply, I can put it to you this way. If both of you are not willing to at least be striving very hard, again, everyone falls, but to be working very hard to be living the life that God is calling you to live, which is nothing more than saying to live a truly human life, then by that very fact it is not possible that you have a true friendship, because if each of you is not living in yourself a good human life, you can't live a good human life together, which is what friendship is. Ladies and gentlemen, life is serious. You can't make this stuff up. God designed this. It's ours to recognize it and either respond to the call or not. So one of the first things here then that I'm going to challenge you, hand in hand with saying you need to look around and think, with whom in your life can you go deeper? Here's the other question that is just as hard and just as important, and that is, you have to ask yourself, am I capable of being a true friend to somebody? I present for your consideration is one of the most important questions you can ask yourself. You live in a world, ladies and gentlemen, with very, very many, very unhappy people who are unhappy because they're not responding to the loving and generous call God has given to strive to live a certain kind of life. And again, true friendship is to be doing that striving together. So, one of my big challenges to you is ask yourself that right now, because it might sound like I'm trying to be dramatic, but honestly, I'm just telling you the truth. If you're not willing to live a certain kind of life every day of your life, you're not going to be anybody's friend in the richer sense. We need to hear that because it's the truth. So are we willing to take the opportunity God has given? Here you are together at this wonderful program here, where you have the opportunity to spend a bit of time in prayer, you have an opportunity to serve, you have an opportunity to get to know some other people of like mind. It's a great time for you to be reflecting upon your own life and be asking yourself, am I willing to be different? Am I willing to stand out in this age? In many ways, ladies and gentlemen, we live in a very crazy age. In many ways, we live in a sad age. I'm not here to speak negatively. It's a wonderful, wonderful time to be alive, because the Lord is calling you right now, and He's going to keep calling you. He's going to keep calling you, and hopefully by His grace we will answer. And all the graces are right there if we do answer. So in case the first point was, ask yourself, am I living the kind of life, am I being serious about my life in such a way that I could be serious together with someone else in a rich kind of friendship? So let me tell you something else to put a little bit more meat on the bones there that Aristotle says about friendship. He says, friends grow in virtue together. Fits with what I've already said, but let's just dig into that a little bit. Friends grow in virtue together. So this is by God's design, that we need to be having the help of others, to be working together, to have their support, to have their encouragement, to have them lift us up when we're falling. For us to be facing the challenges, the temptations, the on and on difficult things about any human life, especially in the challenging age that we live in. Part of God's wonderful design is friends are there to help us to do that. And so friends encourage one another, they lift one another up. One way I like to put it, because it's what Aristotle means, even if he doesn't use the words, friends hold one another accountable. So this is going to be a part of how you think about, with whom can I do this? Well, here's part of how you ask yourself that. Who in the circle of people that I spend time with? Because, again, listen, I'm not going to say to you, don't spend any time with people that you can't go deeper with. You're not going to hear me say that to you today. Though I am going to encourage you to invest your most important time with the people that you can go deeper with. But I want you to ask yourself, who of the people in the circle that I spend time with are the kind of people who will be lifting me up, who want to aim high, hopefully, the way that you do. And that when you find yourself weak, when you find yourself discouraged, that you can turn and say, gosh, I'm struggling with this. What are you thinking? If that other person is going to say, exactly, this going to church thing, that's just something that's being imposed upon you by your parents, and this whole thing of having to strive to be chaste, that's just something that the old timers, that the Pope, whatever, has been trying to impose upon you. At those key moments where you are struggling with things, who is it that's going to say to you what you need to hear at that key moment? That's what I want you to be asking yourself. Because one practical thing that I'm going to suggest that you do when you say, all right, great, I've thought about who this is, and I want to try to grow now. I want to start to grow in true friendship. What should I do? Main suggestion. Slowly, don't rush into it. Start to think about how you can explicitly hold one another accountable. How can you reach out to one another and say, are you setting aside some time in your day for prayer? Whatever it is, think about it. All those things that you know are most important that you should be doing, if you have someone that is there with you, who is working on that with you, what a great difference it makes when that person is encouraging you precisely in that. Here's another thing to think about with whom can you go deeper. Aristotle says that true friendship is where you have great conversations. All right, but I'm going to invite you here to think with me for a moment, because it's a little bit of a challenging point that you got to put a moment of reflection into. There are conversations and there are conversations. Right? Everybody can talk, and everybody has something to talk about. The question is, what do we have to talk about? One of the great challenges of your generation is so often the topics of conversation are the things that we've seen on social media. Did you see such and such? Did you hear such and such? So-and-so's doing such and such. Let's not talk about social media. You probably have someone talking to you about that at some point anyway. Other than right now, in this context, you know what one of my biggest concerns about your habits on your phone and things along the lines of social media is how it undermines true friendship. That is one of the most serious angles from which to consider the problem that it is in our life. The way that our life gets sucked into that and forms certain habits in us that are contrary and tend to replace what you could have been doing with friends. But just so go back to, I just invite you to start to think about this. And right now you might be thinking, well, I don't know exactly what you mean. What are the deeper things that I should be talking about? To some extent, I'm just going to challenge you right now by saying, I invite you to think about that. Friends do talk about shallow things also, but that's not where friends are most alive. Talking about richer, deeper things is where human beings are most alive. And therefore, it's where friendship is most alive. And so part of the challenge I say to you is this. I think, well, I don't have much like that to talk about. I don't want you to be discouraged. I don't want you to be hard on yourself unnecessarily. But I say, maybe that's a good opportunity to ask, what habits can I start to establish in my life so that I will have more deeper things to talk about? That's one of the beautiful things about, for instance, reading Scripture, having your prayer time, reading great works of literature. They give you deeper, richer things to put your soul into and then share together. Some of you in the room will know immediately what I'm saying when I say to you, have you ever met someone where you start to have a conversation and you have experience, it's not just of, oh goody, this person happens to like some of the things I do, but you more have the experience of, oh my goodness, this person is interested and concerned and gets it about the more serious things in life. And something in you soars. I invite you, that's good. That's natural. Look for that, and when you see it, run after it, because that's a gift. So here, going to the very practical direction, and I'm going to wrap up very shortly here, and I'm going to ask you for questions. I'm going to recommend what steps should you take. Again, right now, I've already given you a couple. I'm going to step back and give you the most important one. And I think it's particularly important because maybe someone in the room has prayed this before, but if you haven't, now's the time to start. How to find a true friend? Ask the Lord to send you one. He said, ask and you shall receive. The Lord made you for friendship. If you've been experienced in your life, gosh, I know lots of people. I haven't really found someone I feel that I can go deeper with. First of all, if you've experienced that, that's a good sign. It means you are alive. Your heart is alive. Your mind is alive. You're looking. You're alert to, this is serious. I can't just have a deeper relationship with anyone. This is hard. I say, exactly. Good. Jesus is at work in your life. And the first thing I suggest that you do in response to that is say, Lord, you designed me for friendship. Please send me a friend. Send me someone I can go deeper with. And by the way, help me, Lord, to be able to see that person, and help me to be the kind of person that's going to be able to be the friends to that person will see in me, oh my, what a beautiful soul. So I invite you to pray. Again, I already told you that, but I'm just going to say it again. Be very reflective. Look around in your life. It might be one, it might be two. And I'm not saying the other people in your life are not important. I did not say that. I'm here right now to clang one very important bell for you. At the heart of who you are and who you will be is who your deeper friends are or not. And it's that I'm asking you to focus on. We don't have the time to talk about how you have others. You have others that you try to lift up. What about that person that comes to me for help? Are you saying, Dr. Cuddeback, I can't be friends with the person who doesn't share my values and who's coming to me for help? You can be friends in a broad sense. You cannot be friends in the sense that we're talking about right now. You can always be very respectful. You can always be very loving. You can mentor someone. Mentorship is not the same thing as friendship. Friendship is something very specific. So fine, keep on mentoring other people. Keep on serving those people. But you, in looking, who's that one, who's that two person that I can go deeper with? It's not about being judgmental. It's about being discerning and about living in the truth. We have to learn to live in the truth of who you are and what you're capable of, and those around you, who they are and what they are capable of. Rooted in that truth, you can set forth to bear in mind these two things I've already said, and I say them again. Think in terms of how are you going to help one another. Are you saying things to this friend that are a way of encouraging him or her to grow in their faith, to be strong in their virtue, to understand these things better? And if you find yourself saying, well, I couldn't say that to so-and-so, then this is part of what I'm saying to you. If you can't say that to so-and-so, then so-and-so might have some place in your life, but so-and-so does not have in the place in your life that we're talking about. So try to be super ready to be encouraging and building one another up. And then the other, learn to have the good conversations that we talked about ever so briefly. It's hard for me to say this to you because it's hard to convey just kind of standing up here, waving my hands, yelling, saying, I want you to have good conversations. But it's true. And honestly, only those who become capable of having them know what they are. And it's not until you've really made an effort to be able to do it do you start to get the taste of it. And when you taste it, you recognize this is the better wine that I was made for. But again, it's not going to come unless you set your sights on it. So I'm going to wrap up right there, having given you a few suggestions for what you can concretely do, some of the challenges involved here, and I'll end by throwing this at you as a little bit of a provocation to you, and then I'm going to open it up for discussion. Ready for my provocation? Same sex. The friendship that I'm talking about right now, if you are a young man, is with a young man. It is not with a young lady. And if you are a young lady, the friendship I'm talking about right now is with a young lady. It's not with a young man. What's Dr. Cuddeback implying by saying that? That I can't have any true friendship with a member of the other sex? I didn't say exactly that, but it's tricky. It's tricky. But especially at your age, friendship, you have to learn the habits, the hard, demanding habits of friendship, where you're not having to reckon with the very challenging aspects of a romantic interest. And so the place to start is in those same-sex friendships. Do I want you to have quality relationships with members of the other sex? I absolutely do. But I'm going to be a little bit in your face right now. This is too seldom said to your generation. Men and women in their interactions need to always be modest and reserved because of the astoundingly beautiful difference between us. You can't just pretend as though, well, we're old buddies and we're all the same here and, slap her on the back. So great to be your chum buddy. It's not like that between men and women. At least in any healthy culture, it's not. And where we understand the gift of what it is to be human, it's not. Am I implying that there's not? It can be done, but it's going to have to be done with modesty and reserve. And the thing that we're talking about here of going deeper in this friendship, right now in your life, I'm going to recommend this. Focus on that. Learn to do that well. Might not be what you wanted to hear right here, but I'm going to put it to you this way. Become yourself in that kind of friendship, and then you'll be ready for whatever God calls you to. If it be marriage, whatever your vocation, friendship, first of all, with the same sex, is going to be a great way of preparing for that. Thank you very much for paying attention so nicely. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to stop there and open up for questions. Luca.
So, do you think good conversation over email wouldn't be as beneficial as good conversation in person? But you still think it's worthwhile, especially if in person isn't as much of an option?
All right, so the question was, is good conversation over email possible or okay? Obviously, it's not as good as in person. Might it have its place? That's kind of my repetition of your question. Great question. Here's one of the challenging things about the use of technologies is the way that they can replace the richer kind of things. All right, so there's a great book. It's called Reclaiming Conversation by Sherry Turkle. It came out 10 years ago, and it has absolutely devastating statistics about the effect of devices and social media on young people. But one of the things that it reports in there is how universities right now have to change how they do and I am answering your question. I'm just panning out a little bit, and I'm going to come back in. How they have to change how they do counseling. Because now there are many college-age students who do not know how to talk to someone face-to-face about their problems, and so now they have to have counselors who deal with these people by texting with them. This is serious. Why am I pointing that out? Because given the way human nature is, if you spend more time on this, you're spending less time, more time in this case, communicating this way, you're spending less time communicating this way. So I'm going to go broad and give you a broad encouragement. Bodily presence, bodily conversation is always the gold standard in human life. And especially in your age, you're going to have to prioritize it. You're going to have to say, not just, okay, yeah, I understand that that's more important. Maybe most everybody understands it. But what are you doing in your actions to show that you understand it and to show that you protect it? And so, by the way, you're going to be doing some Eucharistic adoration. If there's one of the best proofs of the priority of bodily presence, that's always the most important presence when you talk about human life, is the Eucharist. Our Lord made clear that He wants to be bodily present. Being in the bodily presence of people is always more important. You don't want to Zoom with Jesus. But I understand if we're the only way you're going to be able to communicate with someone, you might do that. And this comes to your point, is if you have someone that you wants to deepen a relationship with, and there is no way to be together in bodily presence, then obviously some type of writing. Now, of course, here, right, are you going to laugh at me? You're going to say, well, okay, yeah, sure. Of course, someone like you would say something like this. I'm going to say, are you considering writing, a letter by hand? Another simple example of the type of thing that once we don't practice it anymore, we lose the habit. What exactly are you going to do now? These are tough, concrete questions. I think experience shows very clearly that the thought that goes into a handwritten letter tends to be much better than an email. If I were trying to maintain a friendship at a distance, personally, I would prioritize writing something with my hands. Does that mean that I wouldn't do any email? No, but I would always be cognizant of this is the second best. And I would also do things like, small thing, but I'm just going to say it to you. Don't let you, one thing that I know is communicating with my students is email is now turning into texting. They don't even start by saying, dear so-and-so. They don't sign off, they just kind of, and it's hyper abbreviated. That makes for a more shallow, less personal conversation. Texting leads to great missing of the minds. I don't know if you had enough experience of this in life yet, where by texting it's like, what, is this person mad at me? What happened here? What's going on? Emails more and more turning into being just like that. So I would say, bear all those things in mind, be realistic, and do the best that you can. Thank you for asking that. What else? Don't worry. Take a deep breath. You have questions. They are coming to you. So I'm not in any big rush here. Just take a moment. Yes, please.
If you're not able to tell whether you're able to get a deeper friendship with someone, are you able to test the waters in a way?
Yes, great question. Say a book that maybe one day you'll have occasion to read that I highly recommend is a medieval book on friendship called Spiritual Friendship by a Saint Alarid. And I have a book on friendship, and I've plucked out a few of his great insights. And one of them is how at the beginning of thinking, hey, can I go deeper with this person? He talks about the steps, and it basically looks like this. I just said to you, look around and ask, with whom do you think you can go deeper? I didn't get more specific and say this, which I will now, because you asked a great question, which I knew was in you. That once you've said, this seems to be the kind of person that I might be able to go deeper with, so I'm going to start to try this. You don't jump in like, all fours and just all of a sudden be sharing everything about your life. And by the way, a sign of the lack of friendship in many of our lives, and I'm around young people, ladies and gentlemen, a lot. I've been around hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds since before you were born. And if there's one thing that I've seen, it's we have a natural inclination to share the deeper things that are in us. And one mistake that young people make is as soon as they find someone that they think might listen, the dam breaks and they're sharing a lot. Too often this happens in a romantic relationship where all of a sudden you're sharing, your hurts from your father and on. And these are very deep personal things. Then this relationship sours, and all of a sudden you feel like you've been completely exposed. Because, as St. Thomas Aquinas says, secrets are shared with friends. They're not shared with those who are not. And this is why at the Last Supper, our Lord said to his disciples, now I call you friends. Do you remember the next line after our Lord says that? Have you been reading the Last Supper Discourse recently? 15th chapter of the Gospel of St. John. I no longer call you servants, I call you friends. And he says, because. And the next words after the because shows that he thinks about it, friendship the same way Aristotle does. Anyone remember, Luca? That's right in there too. You're absolutely right. That's right there. The servant doesn't know what his master is doing. And the key one that goes hand in hand with that I'm looking for, he says, because all that I have heard from my Father, I have told to you. Which is a jaw-dropping line. Just stand in awe as you sit for a moment of Jesus saying, all that I have heard from my Father, I have told to you. Friends share a lot. But as St. Alred goes on to say, you know what cute, funny little thing he says? He says you need to test. So I'm not recommending that you do this, but it gives you a little taste of St. Alred. He says what you can do while you're just getting to know somebody, take something that's a secret, that it won't hurt you too badly if other people find out. Tell the person, and then just wait a while and see if anybody else finds out, and then you'll know if this person's trustworthy to be your friend. Isn't that cute? It's conveying, and by the way, this is the cool thing about friendship, ladies and gentlemen. Every time you think about something new about friendship, it gives the opportunity to realize not just what you're looking for someone else to be able to do, but what you're looking for you to be able to do. Great question to ask yourself. Are you the kind of person that right now, if someone told you something that was kind of juicy, that'd be kind of cool to be able to tell other people, did you know that so-and-so such and such? Are you the kind of person that on hearing that, it just disappears into you? That's the way men of integrity are. They hear things like that all day long. In their presence to the person, and it never emerges again from their lips unless absolutely necessary. That's an astounding kind of person to be, and that's exactly, once again, the kind of person you have to be. So it's Aristotle says you aren't really, one of the main reasons he says that there's not so much true friendship, he says two reasons. One, there's not so many virtuous people. Hard thing to hear, but it's true. Aristotle says two main reasons there are not so many true friends out there, true friendships. One, there's not the kind of people, the people that are virtuous enough to be able to do it. And the other one, he says, is it takes so long to become a true friend. At your age in life, ladies and gentlemen, and that's why to some extent here, when I talk to people your age, I'm going to treat you as an adult. Even though your life experience is not so much there yet, you haven't so much had occasion to see a little bit more of the long haul of how you, by the time you're my age, you realize that sometimes there's someone you thought you knew well, and then about 3 years later you realize, oh my goodness, this person isn't the person I thought he was. That's more common in life than you think. And so it's hard that you might think, well, okay, I mean, what am I supposed to do then? What am I supposed to do at this age? You know what you're supposed to do at your age? Move forward in hope. Trust in the Lord and be realistic, be discerning, and be looking for the people that you think by all reasonable appearances and it can work out with, and then you slowly grow it. I say to you again, the words I said right near the very beginning, never pretend you're better friends with the person than you are. Sometimes there'll be things that you really badly want to share with someone, but you're just going to say, you know, I'm just going to let this ride a little longer. I'm just not going to do it. So yes, be discerning, live in the truth. It's not being judgmental. Just keep giving it a try. All right. Do you mind if I just ask you all to just not have a little conversation? I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. How are we doing? Does that address your question? Okay, good. Thanks. Yes, please.
So obviously in different life stages you're going to
I'm sorry, just a little louder.
obviously in different life stages you're going to have different friends and like different shared experiences. I'm wondering what your opinion is on having a deep friend but then like eventually moving on and kind of like not losing that friendship in a bad way, but just because you no longer are close in circumstance, you're not as deep of a friend anymore. Do you think
Yeah,
that's
that's a hard one. I'm going to give you a couple quick principles on a tough issue there. The deepest kind of friendship, right, I'm going to say something that St. Alfred says that is going to make you say, oh my gosh, what in the world? But in real, you just have, he's saying it, you have to take this with a grain of salt. I'm going to say it nonetheless. He says, if a friendship ends, it never was a true friendship. All right. Kind of like, let that sink in for a minute, and then let's qualify it. There is a very important truth of the truer the friendship, the more it really is enduring and wouldn't go away. But it's exceedingly rare. And now let's qualify it with a few things. This young lady just said, well, you certainly sometimes are trying it out. And you're finding we can kind of be friends, you're working on it, but you know, it's only able to go so far. It's important to recognize that there's levels of these things. You can have something of a truer friendship that is not going to be able to continue. Here's part of that. What about if you just move away? That's not, obviously, if you move away, Aristotle says you can't be doing the act of friendship anymore. Friends live together. If you move away, how can you be sharing a life? This is a toughie. This is a big part of problem of being in such a mobile society. It's hard to spend the time around people for the length of time it takes to really to get to know them. That's a very difficult thing. I say this to my students at Christendom all the time. It's really hard to come and be there for 4 years, really be growing close to these people, and then kind of poof, at the end, you're not going to be around a number of them again. but if at least a few of them you might be able to continue something with, that's a great gift. And there's nothing wrong with recognizing sometimes different circumstances in life take us apart where we had something beautiful for this length of time, but now that's not going to be able to continue anymore. So there's a lot of different aspects to your, now a lot of people in this age group, I talk to college students all the time about, well, I was close to this person during high school, but now I'm at college here, this person's at college there, we're kind of growing apart, not sure what we should do here. To the extent that you're discovering that you're just kind of different people, you're kind of growing into different people, that's going to work against the relationship that you had. That's why, by and large, the friends that you have in a high school are very seldom the ones that you'll have 10 years later. And that's not saying any, it's just kind of part of the reality that when we're young, we're still growing into who are we anyway. And we might kind of be discovering that, we thought we had more in common than we do. And I just want to say there, it's an important part of life to sometimes just say, it was really good to have this opportunity to grow closer to you. But kind of goodbye, or, we're not going to be, we're separating, we're not able to spend this time together anymore. Is it that one person's moving away, going to school someplace else? You can still have had something rich and real that you can be grateful for. But the issue of the deeper friendship that I'm encouraging you to be thinking in terms of is always something that is moving towards being lasting. It's always something that the deeper that it goes, the more long-lasting it's going to be. Follow-up. How am I doing in answering your question? All right. Please, Michaela.
So what do you, with those the type of friendships where someone feels that they can confide in you, but you don't feel like you can confide in them, like how do you approach that kind of friendship?
Does everybody hear that? What if you have a relationship where that person feels like he, she can confide in you and you don't feel the same the other way? This goes on all the time. And especially, honestly, the more that you are the kind of person that's capable of being a true friend, this is a thing. People will often be kind of attracted towards that, and you still are going to have to be discerning. So let's put it this way. Those that are being mentored by a mentor confide in the mentor. And so the good news is just make sure you're the kind of person that can be trusted. If that person confides in you, you might just take the approach of, okay, and you take it and you say it's something hard. You sympathize with the person, you're there with the person, you encourage the person, but and you keep them safe because you're that kind of person. But you would not be drawn into go in the other direction. Although you naturally find yourself thinking, this person's confided in me, it seems like I should now confide in her. Totally get it, but that's where you're going to have to restrain yourself. And this is the thing. This also can happen, and it often does happen in immature relationships, especially in romantic ones. One of the ways that either a young man or a young lady will try to kind of pull the other person closer is by starting to confide things. And because it naturally will call out in the other starting to confide things too. And that's exactly what this person wants in this person's own immature way. And we all have to be alert to that. If we're growing in character, we're going to be able to the kind of person that can take care of them, as it were, wherever they are. But you have to make sure you're responsible for you. You're responsible for having the maturity, well, once again I say, to never pretend to have a better relationship than you do. And you might someday have someone even saying to you, oh my gosh, you're such an amazing friend to me. And inside you're feeling a little bit bad because you're thinking, well, that's not so much the way I'm seeing our relationship. And you're going to be the kind of person that's not going to say something out loud, but you're still going to live in the truth. We're doing all right? I mean, do we go, 2 minutes? Are we going a quarter of? Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, generally speaking.
Yeah. Anything else? Please, Nick. I'm coming right at you guys.
So I heard a priest once say, Father John Parks, he said he felt closer with his friend who became a Carthusian monk once he was a monk than before. And so I was kind of wondering, like, off of that, could there potentially be a spiritual dimension to friendship that would withstand or grow stronger after there's distance between them?
After, just say it, after.
After there's like a grown distance between.
Well, good. You know what I bet was going on? That's a good question. I think what's going on there is he knew, and of course, bear in mind, the person talking is a priest, and so there is a kind of sameness. Friendship is always about sharing and a certain kind of sameness. The other became a Carthusian. Part of it was probably when that other became a Carthusian, he became more of himself. He more matured as a Christian. That gave them more in common. That itself makes for a deeper friendship. But there is this other aspect, if they're not able to be fully kind of together, that puts a limitation on the friendship. It's still something real, but it's a limitation. That's a great question. There's more. I'm just going to hit these guys real quick. Yes, sir.
So, what do you do when you have someone who you thought was this person, but turns out they weren't really who you thought they were?
Yep.
But you've already confided in them things you wouldn't have.
Yep. Well, first of all, obviously you can't take back what you confided, and then you just put that in the Lord's hands, and you learn, and you learn as you grow, and like, okay, I'm going to be. It's not that life is about protecting yourself. There's always a certain vulnerability that you're going to be willing to have in any relationship, but you might, kind of mental note. All right, I'm going to be a little bit more careful. I'm going to be a little bit more discerning. And if that person betrays you, that person betrays you. We're all going to be betrayed to some extent. If you're not willing to take some risk of being betrayed, you're never going to make friends. And otherwise, I'd just say, don't be tempted to keep working on it when it's clearly not going to go somewhere. Live in the truth and move forward. And there's nothing wrong with having gratitude. Hey, it was so great to have that opportunity with you. But maybe it depends on the circumstances whether you actually say such a thing. But just have confidence in yourself and move on. And be looking for there's still something, I'm sure, way that you would have grown in it. And it was a gift to you in some way. Even part of our all learning the habits of friendship is in the ones that kind of misfired. That's part of your growth. And just praise the Lord for it and learn from it and make the next one better because of it. Love to talk about a more final question. Yes, sir.
Can a person know how to have a properly ordered relationship with God if they don't know how to have a properly ordered relationship with another human?
Did you say, can someone have? Just say it one more time. I like.
Someone know how to have a properly ordered relationship with God if they don't know how to have a properly ordered relationship?
Great question. And let's just turn around to you. By asking the question, you're expressing a very important truth. The two go hand in hand. I'm going to end by saying something incredibly beautiful from St. Alred. God ultimately designed you for friendship with himself. That is the meaning of life. But in his great loving providential plan, he also wants you to be friends with human persons, which is a preparation for you becoming capable of being friends with him. And so part of his great plan for you is those friendships which are bringing you on the path to be able to grow in friendship with him. But that your great question showed the truth is they're always very closely associated with one another. The fundamental principles of friendship apply both with other human persons and to your friendship with the Lord. And if all we have is kind of shallow friendships, not the deeper kind with human persons, how are we going to know how to go deeper in our friendship with the Lord? Very nice question. Thanks all. I appreciate your attention for being with you. Thank you.